let's move on and talk about some of the really exciting new drugs. We're sort of blessed in myeloma by having lots of new therapies available, and maybe we'll just start with small molecules. So we have a number to talk about, but let's start with venetoclax, and maybe, Noopur, you could explain to the audience what the venetoclax is, what the data is in multiple myeloma, and what's been presented at this meeting.
Sure. So venetoclax is a BCL2 inhibitor, and we've actually borrowed this from the lymphoma and the CLL world. It's been used quite nicely in lymphoma patients and chronic lymphocytic leukemia with very high response rates, wherein it's so active that you actually even see tumor lysis in those patients with CLL. In multiple myeloma, what has been seen very nicely in this data, which was presented, I believe, a year back now by Shaji Kumar, and what he saw very nicely with single agent venetoclax is in a patient population who was 11-14 positive, he saw a response rate of about 40% or so. And there is, in addition to the myeloma subset, which is 11-14 positive, there is a plasma cell leukemia population also which harbors the 11-14 translocation, and they in fact may be BCL2 dependent. There's data which is going to be presented at this meeting combining venetoclax with dexamethasone in just 11-14 translocated patients. So it's kind of one of the first studies where we're doing a genetically enriched patient population. And there, I think Jonathan Kaufman is seeing a response rate in excess of 60% in that patient population. So I think it's a great niche drug. It's not for everybody. And certainly
let me push on that.
Back on
so
that.
We have 11-14 translocation, 20% of myeloma patients, somewhere in the 40 to 60% response rate with single agent or single agent plus dexamethasone. It has been studied with bortezomib in combination. Harry, are you familiar with that?
Right, actually, so we have the papers just came out on that. And so again, people who had bortezomib exposed or even refractory could reestablish responses with venetoclax in that setting.
Venetoclax in combination with bortezomib, yeah. And what kind of response rate were they seeing?
I don't know the exact number right now, but I think it's about for 50% still.
No, way higher. So 90% response rate with bortezomib, right?
Yeah, it was in the 80% range and certainly looked very encouraging. And because BCL2 is anti-apoptotic, there's a rationale for why it should be something we could block and enhance a number of different chemotherapeutic regimen activities.
Talk about your personal experience with venetoclax. So have you used it, Cristina, in patients?
Yes, in fact, I'm on the venetoclax, dexamethasone combination, and I have a very good experience with the patients, specific patients with 11-14 translocation. It's very well tolerated. We were concerned about tumor lysis because the CLL data, and we really have seen but not seen in myeloma. We were doing a lead-in week, increasing the dose, and now we established the dose of 800 milligram, and we can go out of the gate in combination with Velcade. I do have several patients maintaining the response for many months.
You've been quite pleased with it. Bob, have you had a chance to use venetoclax, and how did that go?
We have. It is very active in 11-14 at MD Anderson. We've not tried it outside of that subgroup. But as long as we're on BCL2 family targets, although we don't have any data yet, there are now ongoing beginning trials with an MCL1 inhibitor from a number of different companies. And that should be much more broadly applicable to all subtypes of myeloma.
Noopur, have you had success with venetoclax, and have you had any toxicity from it?
So most of the toxicity is GI related, but not significant though, and patients have been able to tolerate it quite all right.
Talk about selinexor. This is another novel drug with a novel mechanism of action. It targets a protein called exportin. What's your knowledge base of that one, Harry?
So that's another agent that's being investigated for the P53 mutated myeloma, where it keeps the P53 protein in this nucleus and prevents its nuclear export by blocking XPO1. And again, it's being investigated in pentarefractory and quadrefractory myeloma with exciting response rates at this point, although durability of responses is something we have yet to see.
And Noopur, you told me earlier you tried it out in some patients.
It's a tough drug. It's an oral drug, and there's a lot of GI related toxicity, a lot of fatigue associated with it. They are coming up with a better formulation, so I do think that will help.
Anybody else had experience with selinexor, and how does that gone?
Yeah, I'm actually part of the STOMP trial where the selinexor is combined with different backbone therapy, selinexor with bortezomib, dexamethasone, selinexor with Revlimid, with Pomdex, and we are presenting the abstract, and with Darzalex actually, I'm presenting that on Sunday.
What are you going to tell us?
I think, first of all, the response rate is impressive. Many of patients, we have a limited number of patients. First of all, we're talking about less than 10, but we see a rapid response within the first month, relatively high response. We were comparing selinexor doses of the biweekly with the weekly, and we think we have to go with the weekly. We
for
found
tolerability.
Particularly the highest adverse events in the myelosuppression, the thrombocytopenia, the neutropenia, and some of GI as well. So, but I think is a promising combination.